Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Daniel First, the CEO at Axion. I'm really excited about the conversation that we have lined up this afternoon. At Axion, our mission is to help quality leaders empower their teams to solve the top issues that are impacting customers at the earliest warning signal and to leverage AI successfully. Our speaker today is Dr. James Ezhaya. He's at the forefront of bringing AI successfully to his organization. And today we're going to talk about something that I think every quality leader in this room has felt, the idea that you've had to choose. You've had to choose between speed or quality, cost or sustainability, fast or right. And our guest today is going to talk about how in the age of AI, you no longer need to choose. Reducing warranty costs, improving availability, improving reliability no longer need to come at the expense of speed and cost. So to introduce Dr. Ezhaya, over the last couple of years, he's been the Global VP of Quality at Schneider Electric, one of the world's most complex manufacturing organizations, operating across hundreds of plants in dozens of countries. James leads quality across all of it. He's also the author of Solving SHIT Problems. Yes, that is the real title. And it's a book that challenges quality professionals to, no longer use hundreds of years old methods to solve 21st century crises. And actually, over the last couple of days, James now been promoted to be SVP of Industrialization and Supply Chain. And so congratulations, James. It happened after we announced the webinar. But I've gotten to know James, and he's a visionary, a practitioner, somebody who's really bringing AI successfully to his organizations. And as I've gotten to know him, he's one of the most interesting thinkers that I've met in this space. And he's on a mission to bring Schneider to the next level in terms of quality and the entire quality profession, from the reactive firefighting that so many of us see to proactive AI accelerated leadership. And so today he's going to tell us exactly how. So James, welcome. We're really glad that you're here.
No, great. Thank you so much. So if I go back to your first question, I mean, if we think at Schneider Electric, this power of and, right? I mean, our quality mission is simple, but we think it's powerful. We keep people and the planet safe. When you think of Schneider, our offers are life safety. So when we speak of a culture of trust, we're not just designing, manufacturing, servicing offers like a circuit breaker or a UPS. We're crafting shields. We're preventing overheating, fires, electrical hazards while ensuring continuity and maintainability. And I think that's what really drives us, is that energy technology is about delivering a world-class experience. I think many on the call remember from your Six Sigma training or your project management, the triangle, right? The iron triangle. Quality, time, cost. You improve one dimension while sacrificing another, right? You can't optimize all three at once. It's usually expressed as good, fast, cheap. Pick any two. If you want good and fast, it won't be cheap. Good and cheap, it won't be fast. Fast and cheap, it won't be high quality. But that framing is dangerous in today's AI-driven, high-demand market. And this is the power of quality-focused AI software. We eliminate this trade-off mindset, and we embrace this power of and, because success is no longer about choosing one priority over another. It's about achieving both. Quality as part of the business, working as one team, driving goals and objective, achieving product quality and on-time delivery, because our customers demand and they deserve both. And we shouldn't forget about sustainability, because quality and sustainability, because the planet demands it, and we use AI to deliver this quality, delivery, and cost, because excellent means we don't compromise. So happy to be here.
Great. So maybe just to start off, you've talked about seeing over time how you no longer have to choose between speed and quality, cost or sustainability. What are some of the things that you've seen over the course of your career at Schneider Electric or otherwise that led you to believe that?
I mean, that's you're starting off with a great question. I mean, when you lead a massive quality function like we do, as you mentioned, we have dozens of plants abroad, many different quality functions. How are you able to see is about connecting different data sets. right? I mean, how are you able to take, as a company grows the way Schneider has grown, right? Decades of innovation, expansion, acquisitions, you almost inherit something that every large industrial company struggles with. Data is everywhere, right? But insight is not always easy. And connecting the dots can be mostly a manual process. We had warranty data in one system, call center logs somewhere else, factory quality data and MES systems, supplier data and procurement, design in your engineering environments. Each of these systems works. Each team is doing the right thing every day for the customers, but signals sometimes can get fragmented. So the real challenge isn't a lack of data. It's about how do we connect the dots fast enough to matter? Because when you're running more than 200 locations around the world, a problem can show up in 3 different places before anyone realizes it's actually the same problem. You may see a small spike in warranty claims in one region, a technician in a call center logs a strange complaint. Meanwhile, a factory operator, we've all heard this, adjusts a process parameter because something just doesn't feel right. Individually, those signals can look small. Together, they are the early warning system of a systemic issue. So the first thing we did, or my team did, I don't take credit, is instead of asking, where's the data? We ask, how do we connect the signals? The power of and. This meant building a global quality data fabric, connecting design data, supplier performance, manufacturing signals, and field performance into one analytical environment. Now we can start seeing patterns weeks or months earlier. A failure mode in the field can trace back to a production batch, a supplier lot, design revisions, and even environmental conditions. And that's where quality starts to become predictive instead of reactive. And the exciting part is what comes next. I mean, we work very closely together. Once those signals are connected, you begin to layer AI and intelligent agents on top of them, like what we're doing with the Axion today, not just dashboards, but systems that are continuously connected. And they ask, is this an anomaly statistically meaningful? Have we seen this pattern before? Which plants might be at risk? So the journey for Schneider was not simply consolidating data sets. It was about moving from fragmented information to connected intelligence. And that's when you operate a global industrial network that the shift is incredibly powerful because suddenly the company learns from every signal everywhere at once, the power of and, as we call it.
And so, if you think about, where Schneider may have been initially, where it is today, but then if you look out in the future of, where do you want Schneider to be in the coming years? What role are AI agents going to play in that? And, what evolution has this looked like for you personally, for people on your team, as you now are going to be thinking about overseeing, hybrid, workforces of humans working alongside AI agents?
Yeah, you're asking really nice questions. I guess when I stepped into my role, the first thing I tried to understand is where we really were on the quality maturity curve. In most global manufacturing design centric organizations, you can say quality typically evolves through a few stages. The first is reactive. We love to firefight, right? We call it the warm loop, running into the fire. Something breaks, customer escalates. Oh my God. And the organization is mobilized to fight the fire. That's often how you get promoted, is how good you're able to fight and solve problems. Second stage of maturity is being an investigator, right? You're not just reacting anymore. You're running root cause analysis, structured problem solving, Six Sigma, 8D, Kaikakus, Kaizen. You're learning from failure. And then the next step is proactive and preventive. Here you start to see predictive controls, stronger design feedback loops, statistical monitoring through SBC, and systems that can prevent problems before they reach the customer. When I arrived at Schneider, it's already a very strong industrial company, right? Hyper focused on safety, hyper focused on customer at all cost. What I've tried to do with my team is bring consistency to our system and shift the entire organization further left on the curve to being predictive and a trusted partner. Over the last few years, we've seen that building that structure, the common operating model, stronger problem-solving disciplines, digital visibility into quality signals across the network, and much tighter links between design, manufacturing, and customer experience. Think about end-to-end. But the next step is where it gets really interesting as we're moving into this agentic quality model with Axion. Not just digital tools, but the digital quality workers, systems that continuously monitor the signals before my team will even see the issue. It's just, I don't know what to say. It's just been a great vision working together. Um, and I think we're just started, right? I mean, I would say we're just getting started. And if I tell my team, you're not a millennium, you're not a baby boomer, you're not Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, we're becoming Generation T, this transition generation where AI becomes your colleague. Behavioral change, right? A new type of digital companion. Biologically, we're just wired against change. It's scary. The only one that likes change was my daughter when she had a dirty diaper. But we need experts. We need the domain expertise to use the tools wisely. As we're bombarded with info, with these large amounts of data, using the Axion software, the AI software, allows us to pull out the right bits. I was just doing a masterclass last week, and it talks about how do you unlock this superpower called reperception. Reperception is the ability to take all this information that matters, a skill of spotting and understanding key signals that others might miss to get a clear understanding of the present. Reperception means seeing a problem, task, or capability in a completely new way to understand what AI can actually do. The simple idea is at first people think about problems a traditional way, right? But after learning AI, after using tools like Axion, you reperceive the problem and they suddenly realize that AI could solve it differently or much better. It's a shift in how you think about a problem because AI changes what's possible. We talk about my daughter. I don't know, she's probably on this webinar, but sorry, Victoria. She's a third-year industrial engineering student at UF. And it's exciting to see that in education today, they're already integrating Gen AI into every class. It's here now, it's here, it's present.
Yeah, and James, I think one of the reasons that I've seen it be so successful for you to bring AI and Axion to Schneider is that I think sometimes leaders will try to bring AI and they might think that it's a silver bullet. You drop the AI in, drop the ChatGPT in, and then boom, problem solved. And I think a lot of what you've been highlighting is how how much culture needs to change, how there's so many different use cases, how there's process that needs to change. And I think what we're seeing is that leaders are thinking about, what it means to be a quality leader differently today. So maybe you want to comment a little bit about how you've thought, how you felt, seeing your own role evolve, in the age of AI.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, a great question. And I hear that a lot. I speak at conferences. I was just at the Rams face-to-face last month. And you hear from quality leaders when AI comes up. First, I'll say working with Axion. They imagine a 2-year IT project, right? Massive database restructuring, endless cybersecurity reviews, integration across 15 systems. And I'll say that by the time the project actually delivers something, the organization has already moved on, right? We've seen this with other big changes. That was probably my experience in the beginning when I started working with Axion on how is this going to be different from past transformations. But my experience has been very different using the generative AI designed for quality professionals. When we first engaged with Adam, I'll give Adam a shout out, and the Axion team, we assumed it would take months just to prepare the data, connecting systems, cleaning databases, dealing with internal IT systems. Instead, the team was able to extract a meaningful data set very quickly through multiple systems, connecting signals from these sources to generate insights in hours and not months. And that was a bit of a kind of was a wake-up call for me because it's reframed AI not just as an IT tool, an IT transformation, but more of a business capability where quality leaders are not trying to build IT infrastructure. We're trying to see problems earlier, understand patterns faster, and improve the customer experience. And what's impressed me about working with Axion is that uh, I use ChatGPT. I'm a ninja at ChatGPT. But Axion is purpose built. We're not trying to solve every single data problem in the enterprise. We're trying to see what signals matter most: service logs, plant data, warranty, customer feedback, and how to connect these sources quickly with a quality lens. So instead of waiting 2 years for an internal AI team to build something custom, you can start generating value almost immediately. And I think that's an important message for leaders. AI doesn't have to be a massive transformation. It can start on day one. It can start with one data set, one use case, one insight that helps your team make a better decision. Once people see that value, momentum, speed, the flywheel, it moves very quickly. And that's what's happened for me. And a lesson I'd say for these quality professionals is don't spend time waiting for a perfect AI strategy, right? Start with a problem. Start with a customer problem. Connect data around it and see what the system can learn. Because in reality, insight delayed is a customer pain point. And the faster we can see the signals, the faster we can improve the system. AI quality doesn't have to be this moonshot. It can start with connecting signals you already have.
Great. James, we have a question emerging from the chat. How does Schneider use Axion in their day-to-day prioritization and make sure the iron triangle and quality are not compromised?
Yeah, that's really good. So again, Schneider is laser focused around safety, right? Being a life safety product. How we use Axion is, as we mentioned, learning to see is that every single day, as it's connecting all these different sources, we've programmed it with what's critical. What's a severity 1 versus a severity 9, severity 10? And I get a daily alert from the agent of how I prioritize my time to know what could most impact our customers and impact our business. So it's become a tool that I use daily for how I start my work.
And James, maybe you want to talk about some of the different ways. One of the things we've talked about is how there's obviously different teams in an enterprise that are going to use different metrics to prioritize. You always have one team that's using warranty, and other teams using frequency, and other teams using uptime. How do you think about the way that quality leaders should balance these different priorities? And how in a world where AI agents are going to be prioritizing and solving issues, how do you think about the way that quality leaders are going to need to give guidance given these competing priorities?
Yeah, if I can they raise hands? Can I get some thumbs up? How many people here are Six Sigma black belts or green belts or have had some exposure to applied statistics? We often call it the transfer function, right? Y is a function of X. Whether you're talking about NSS, net satisfaction scores, cost of poor quality, a big metric for us, customer complaints, customer major issues, all of these are outcome metrics. By using tools like Axion, you're able to connect the outcome metrics to better understanding and build this transfer function on what impacts it the most. The data learns, and you simply begin by seeing these pain points, where they're coming from, where these nuisances, and then how you can maximize that transfer function to get a bang for your buck.
And so, James, one of the things I want to make sure that we cover is the data center space that you are in is obviously a highly dynamic space, and we actually, there's a lot of quality leaders that are, kind of asking us what quality looks like there because customer expectations around uptime in data centers we see are higher than ever. Maybe you want to talk about, how are customer expectations, and at least from what your vantage point in this industry, how are customer expectations evolving, And how do you see do you see customers expecting more and more that teams are going to be using AI to be more proactive?
Yeah, I mean, a great question. How do I answer? I mean, the data center market is changing the definition of quality. In the data center world, quality is measured in milliseconds, and trust is measured in uptime. Many of us probably know the Uptime Institute, how they categorize data centers, but it's no longer about failure rates. It's about failure impact. When you're supplying equipment into hospitals, buildings, industrial facilities, quality and safety, it's critical. It's your license to operate. But when you're supplying these hyperscaler data centers, quality becomes something entirely different. It becomes existential. Downtime is not just inconvenient. When a hyperscaler talks about 99.999% uptime, what they're really saying is you can't fail. You can't fail in a way that surprises us because it'll be in the Wall Street Journal, it'll be on CNN or BBC. And that's an important distinction. Customers understand that complex systems can have issues. What they expect from companies like Schneider Electric is speed, is transparency, and control over when something does happen. So the pressure on quality has shifted in several ways. First, complexity has exploded. Data centers are scaling at an unprecedented pace. New architectures, higher power density, liquid cooling, faster product introductions, the entire infrastructure stack is evolving in real time. That means the number of potential failure modes is just growing. Second, time to detection, it's become just as important as reliability itself. Customers expect us to detect anomalies earlier, often before the customer notices them. In many cases, the spec wants remote diagnostics, predictive maintenance signals based on AI, proactive alerts coming from Schneider. This is the EcoStruxure tool, right? Resolution speed has become part of our product. It's not just about hardware. It's this ecosystem around it. Service teams, digital monitoring, supply chain responsiveness, and engineering support. In other words, quality. Quality is not just about how the product is built. The power of and. Quality and service and digital. It's about how fast the system learns and reacts when something changes. So our approach has evolved accordingly. We're building quality systems that combine design robustness, global manufacturing discipline, real-time digital monitoring across our installed base. This allows us to detect patterns earlier, isolate issues faster, support customers with much greater precision. And the reality is, the expectations from the hyperscalers, they're only going to increase. They're not going to decrease. They expect faster detection, containment, and RCA, or root cause analysis, than ever before. And I think the good news for Schneider is that we're uniquely positioned for that environment. We operate across the entire energy management and infrastructure stack, from design to manufacturing to monitoring to service. And that allows us to position quality as a strategic enabler. Quality is not just the factory function, walking around, I'm drinking a bottle of water, but walking around with a cup of coffee, let me see your control chart. Let me see, did you do that right? Did you do? It allows us to really become a full life cycle capability, because uptime isn't about preventing failures. It's about how intelligently our system responds when complexity it shows up, like it shows up with data centers.
Yeah, and actually, yesterday I was in Indianapolis talking with a quality leader in the data center space, and they said something that really stood out to me. They said very often the business case around quality, it's made on warranty cost and cost of poor quality. but ultimately it's the customer's perception of quality that matters. Is 0.3% good? Is it bad? It depends what the customer's perception is. And so much of customers' perception is, not just about downtime and issue speed, but it's once there's a recurring issue, how fast is the team on top of it? And I think it's really interesting how these concepts, I think, are becoming much more visible to the C-suite when customers' expectations about how proactive manufacturers are is just increasing over time.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I can only add, I mean, without customer, there would be no quality. Quality comes from customer. And that's why, as a quality professional, we have the best job in the world.
Great. We're getting a question in the Zoom chat. Maybe you could give some examples of specific issues that you and your team have been solving, whether supplier or otherwise, and how your team is solving them with AI.
Yeah, some good. God, there's so many examples I've had over the past couple months. What is a good example? I would say, as I mentioned, one of the biggest advantages of Axion, right, of a platform like Axion, like generative AI, right, is the ability to correlate signals that normally live in completely separate systems, right? Service data, plant quality data, warranty claims, logistics information, and even your customer care center feedback, right? And like free text. Individually, those signals often look small, but when you connect them, patterns can emerge very quickly. To give you an example, we began seeing a very small spike in service tickets relating to equipment installation. Nothing dramatic, nothing that's going to, relate to scrapping or safety condition. Just a slight increase in technicians noting difficulty during installation. At the same time, in a separate system, there are minor logistics flags coming from our DCs or distribution centers about package handling. Separately, operators in our plants had logged minor adjustments during final testing. None of these signals, right? This is severity 1. None of these signals would trigger a major investigation, an 8D. But Axion was able to correlate these data sets and surface a pattern. This is no joke. This is not blah, blah PowerPoint. It revealed something very practical, an interaction between like a packing configuration and the rack in, rack out process during installation. In certain conditions, the way the equipment was packaged and transported was creating a small alignment stress that only became visible when customers were installing the units in the gear. It wasn't a catastrophic failure. I would call it a customer nuisance, and we hate customer nuisance. Friction during installation that slows a technician down and becomes a frustration. If you've ever read our friend Phil Crosby, right? Quality is free. He talked a lot about this. The fun uncle of quality, right? In today's environment, even small nuisances matter. Using the platform, the team was able to move quickly. We adjusted the packaging design, transport handling, installation guidance, so the signal disappeared almost immediately. And that's a great example of what a modern quality system should and can do. Not just detect failures, but identify early signals of friction, of rework, and the customer experience. Ultimately, quality isn't just about preventing defects. It's about eliminating hassles. Hassle elimination, learning to see, giving visibility to nuisances. Hassle elimination for our customers is about continuous learning, is about continuous improvement.
We're getting a question from one of the attendees. Obviously the Pareto has always been, the best friend of quality teams. How is in the world of AI? How do you think about how AI moves beyond the Pareto. And one of the other questions here is, is Axion like a Pareto chart across all the data sets? And how is it different from a Pareto chart? I'll just quickly add on that. One of the biggest challenges that we see that quality leaders have is that there's no unifying key across these data sets. If there's a valve issue, is that the same thing that's being described across warranty claims or service records? Is what people are seeing in the trucks in the field the same in the DTC codes as what was noticed by suppliers? And so one of the big issues with that AI that we're seeing is that there's no way of knowing what's the same failure, which means it's hard to detect and investigate. I don't know, James, you want to comment on on how we move beyond the Pareto and the difference between the Pareto and AI?
Yeah, no, first of all, I love the question. If you have people here from ASQ, years ago, they used to have cartoons, right? Or you'd be like hitting the head of Pareto with a hammer. Um, the Pareto's been around since the 1980s. I believe it was, somebody correct me in the chat. I think it was 1982 when Joe Duran, the father of quality, right? Part of the big three, uh, took from economics this idea that the 80-20 rule, right, came from Italy, that 80% of the land was owned by 20% of the landowners. And by treating quality as you would in finance, by attacking the big fishes, by nailing the head of Pareto, it would be cost effective and it would show the business case, often measured through the cost of poor quality, right? We all know you have a path, internal defects, external defects, over a ratio of prevention and appraisals. And you want that to be a positive ratio to show that you're proactive in quality and not reactive. What Axion has done is it redefines what the Pareto is. So instead of just looking in a plant, which is important, right? You go to that station, to that line. What's your CPK? What are the drivers of the CPK? Show me your Ishikawa. What's the influence using design of experiment of how we build reliability as a function and not as guessing? Axion, generative AI, is able to bring the patterns from the different sources to drive a new understanding of what is the head of Pareto.
Great. Maybe we're getting another question about broken countermeasures.
Oh,
Is
go
there,
ahead.
how do you think about, obviously, I'm sure every countermeasure that we all put in place ends up being effective, but how do you think about the role that AI can play there?
Yeah, countermeasures. I mean, first, it's great we have so much interaction. I mean, countermeasures is a big topic, right? Zombies. Inequality, often the most dangerous problems aren't the new ones, right? They're the ones that we think are already fixed. And sometimes they don't surface because I come from plants, right? From manufacturing, you often learn what the fix is. So it doesn't get raised because you know the solution in your back pocket. And those of us that have some gray hair and worked in quality long enough, we call it the zombie problem, right? The zombie problem. You solve it, you close the corrective action. Everyone feels good about the 8D, right? What's the last stage in 8D? We celebrate, right? We have pizza party, we have cake. We love cake and quality, love it. But then 6 months later, the quality, the issue comes back, right? Comes back from the dead. And that's what I think you're meaning by broken countermeasures. And the reason it happens is, I would say it's actually very human. Most organizations rely on a manual verification loop. A team of humans, we implement the fix. We monitor it, right? DMAIC, control phase, right? We monitor it for a while. You can't close the black belt project unless you have a control phase signed off by your MBB. The signal disappears, and eventually we are wicked happy, right? We're high-fiving. We fixed the problem. But over time, teams can become almost blind to recurring issues. They've seen the problem so many times that the assumption becomes we've already fixed that. Verifying a countermeasure, it's still holding across plants, suppliers, but it's incredibly labor intensive. So historically, a lot of those checks didn't happen continuously beyond control phase. And that's where AI starts to fundamentally change the game. AI allows us to automate the control loop, working hand in hand with 8D. I don't know if you're going to talk about some of the things you're doing, next steps with the tool, but you should probably mention it because it's pretty cool. But you're automating this confirmation loop. Instead of closing a problem and hoping it stays closed, you can use the agent, the AI, to continuously monitor the signals related to that issue. Your production parameters, your service tickets, warranty trends, supplier lots, environmental conditions. Your AI agent, Axion, we use you to help us manage that and monitoring it over time to create alerts. So if the pattern starts to reappear, even subtly, I get flags. I get the daily flags. So the question becomes, the question is no longer, did we fix it? The question becomes, is the fix still holding across our entire system? And this continuous verification is incredibly powerful. It's the biggest shift. It's a cultural shift, right? Because in an AI-assisted environment, quality teams no longer say, we knew about that issue, because the system will surface distinct root causes where humans previously saw just one.
Great. Oh,
Let me keep going because I think this is super cool. Because what becomes a single recurring issue might be three different mechanisms that the AI has learned to see. That's the power of and. The level of precision forces leaders to act differently as we shift left.
great. Maybe on that topic of what's coming in the future, obviously, every manufacturer, every OEM exists in a larger network of service organizations, dealerships, internal or external distributions or call centers, and supply chain. Obviously, it's great when AI can help quality teams, detect and solve issues faster. But what change do you see as a quality leader about what this means for suppliers, what this means for service organizations and dealerships, and how do you think that vision will play out over the next couple of years?
Yeah. Yeah. You heard, I hope you quote me. It's about learning to see. Learning to see. When you're connecting the organization end to end on performance, on trends, on where are the pain points, the hassles for the customers, the whole organization is learning to see. And as a quality professional, as you become more senior, part of having that experience is you develop a radar or a sonar, right? What's important versus what's critical? Where do I invest my time? How do I compete for scarce resources with engineering, with manufacturing, with procurement? By using AI, by visualizing the problems and learning to see, quality itself as an organization, as a total quality organization, becomes uplifted.
Great. We're getting a question in the chat. Sometimes data is entered and it's not perfect. Maybe the encodings, in different data systems like service events, the encodings are not perfectly correct. How does Schneider with Axion deal with imperfect data where a lot of the data is actually hidden in messy write-ups, rather than structured data?
Great. I say where the tool's super useful is it goes through the free text. So if the part number is wrong in the system, come on. If you've ever worked in service, they are under such pressure. Field service is at the customer site, customers overlooking them, like much respect. I often say, when I'm reborn, I'm going to be a service technician. So maybe it's not categorized correctly, which is why your head of Pareto cannot always be accurate. But the power of generative AI is as you give it access to the system, it actually goes through the free text, it reads the free text and gives patterns. So within Schneider, your team has been working with my offer quality leaders. The offer quality leaders, they own that offer within a scope, within a geography. So working with the Axion, we've been training the AI We've been training the AI based on our data to make sure the pattern is correct and it gets better in the future. And one of the things now we're working on, as we are training the AI, the agent, with past 8Ds, past Six Sigma reports, Ishikawa's 5 Whys, is that when we do see this problem, it enables my team to be faster. They can see events all over the world. They can click a button and the tool will generate a 5 Y or a 5 Y 2H, what, where, who, how many, how much, and it can even give the skeleton of an 8D.
Great.
I don't know if you're offering that to all your customers, but at least that's something that you've been working with my team.
Yeah, Schneider's been great in beta testing some of the new features, especially as AI agents go from not just detecting issues to also doing a lot of the tasks. And so, happy to discuss if anybody else is interested in piloting some of that. We are there's another question here about change management. How do you think about what sort of change management needs to happen for team members in order to help bring Axion and other AI initiatives to success?
Yeah. So can I be a little bit of academic? Since I think there's probably a lot of other academics and professionals on the call. If I had one piece of advice for quality leaders, the transition is coming, right? But you're not sure where to start. Do you know Roy Amara? Roy Amara, he has Amara's law, right? Which it describes how people usually misunderstand new technologies. A simple explanation. We tend to overestimate the effect of a technology in the short run. You overestimate, you overreact, and then you underestimate the impact in the long run. In other words, people can exaggerate what the technology will soon do, but they actually underestimate and they're not prepared for what it will do eventually. So short term, people get wicked, from Maine, wicked. We get wicked excited, overly excited. When the new technology appears, people think it will change everything immediately. But then expectations become unrealistic. The reality is progress can be slower at first. Technology takes time to improve, to scale, to integrate into society. The hype can lead to disappointment, but long term is the impact becomes much bigger than anyone expected. Over years, over decades, the technology quietly transforms industries and life in ways people they didn't originally imagine. So if we take AI, if we take Axion, every day you get headlines, right? AI will replace jobs in the next 2 years. Tesla switching Model S line to Optimus. The reality is AI is helping with pattern recognition, writing, research, automation, learning to see. But it's not replacing jobs yet, at least in my experience. And AI will fundamentally reshape work, medicine, science, education, as I mentioned with my daughter. I had to mention my daughter because she sent me a text not to mention her again. Sorry, Victoria. I'm proud of you. But remember the dot-com boom and bust of the 2000s. In the 2000s, we said pet food would be delivered online. We'd watch movies online. Groceries will be delivered by app. In 1999, the technology couldn't keep up. It took 25 years. But today, most of us, I live outside Miami. When I go to get an Uber, it's an autonomous vehicle. This is not science fiction. Our streets have the co-robots delivering groceries to my house. So I would say to the professionals on this call, use your time wisely. We are part of Generation T, of the transition.
Great. We have another question from the chat. Obviously, for quality leaders that are trying to bring AI into their organization, something they sometimes encounter is somebody says to them, well, why don't you just go to the IT team and have them try to build it? How do you think about that? And how should the quality leaders think about it?
No, I mean, it's a real question, right? I mean, before I worked with Axion, when there was a quality issue, I would often go to Copilot. And I learned, Schneider, we sponsor our employees, all of our employees globally with Coursera. We partner with universities like Vanderbilt, like MIT. I did programs with MIT on AI, and you learn how to do prompt engineering. And I will spend, 20, 30 minutes to write an amazing prompt that will then give me an outcome. And then I can keep revising the prompt, act as a quality professional, use the IEC standard, use the UL standard, give it to me in a 5Y format, give me an Ishikawa. Um, the thing about Axion is it's built for quality, right? It's like OpenAI if it was built for the quality function. And the Axion team that I've worked with so far, most of them are level 1 or level 2 master black belts. So they have PhDs in applied statistics, or they're coming from, I hope I'm not being inappropriate, but Boston Consulting, McKinsey. So they know most of the problem solving methodologies, and they've built this platform based on that knowledge. You and me, me and Daniel, I mean, I collect degrees. I collect degrees for fun because I'm a lifelong student. One of my degrees is in philosophy, right? Your degree is in philosophy because we love problem solving and we love solving the big problems.
Yeah, and I think that, part of one of the things that I learned from philosophy is how, in every technology that comes out, people think it's going to magically solve every problem. And then they get hit with the reality that you need to think about the human element. And that, when Darwin came out, people thought that Darwinian thinking was going to solve every problem in the universe and help them understand it. And then it turned out that, you had to understand where that was the right framework to use. And I think that, with AI, one of the big things that we're seeing is that, it's not just enough to create a prototype in a sandbox. You need to really approach it holistically and think about process redesign, change management. James has one of the big things that I think has driven success at Schneider is creating a roadmap of use cases and aligning the whole organization on where do we want to be in 3 years and how do we march on towards that. And I think that sometimes when people do AI experiments with IT that can last 2 years and then in the end deliver nothing, what happens actually, the impact on users is something you can never take back because then the users start thinking that AI just never delivers. So I think that really being able to build that momentum, from month one has been critical. One of the other questions we're getting is, did Schneider have any trepidations or concerns before partnering with Axion? What were the trepidations or concerns? How did you overcome these both for yourselves, but also for other stakeholders that you had to talk with?
Wow, another great question. I mean, because we're a big company, right? I mean, Schneider is one of the biggest companies in the world. I think, of course, there's trepidation because you're doing something different, right? I remember when you and I had our first meeting, you said to me, you quoted Socrates. You said, an unexamined life is not worth living. The best among us choose one thing above all others, everlasting good fame among mortals. The rest are easily satisfied, like cattle. Guys, you need to go to a bar with the two of us. We have such interesting discussions together, right? So I think in the beginning, I mean, if you remember, I was actually involving my IT team. All the meetings were the IT professionals. They weren't my quality guys and gals. I learned quite quickly that because the tool is built around quality, it was more, and it's so easy to use. It was about feeding the pipe with data, and then the patterns are trained to be able to emerge. And then as our team invests the time to like, was this a good answer? Was this a bad answer? It just becomes more effective. And then internally within Schneider, it's become, instead of pushing, actually where you and I are struggling, it's the pull, right? So many people now want to join that. How do we meet the expectation because they find value add in the solutions? But I think it helped really. It helped because you're hiring quality professionals, right? Because you have people that speak my language, it's easier to talk if it was just a bunch of people from the IT space.
Yeah, one of the big things that we're proud of is that MIT recently did a study. A lot of the folks in this call probably heard that 95% of AI pilots fail, and it's largely the internal ones. Whereas at Axion, actually, over 95% of our pilots do make it to production. I have many cases where CPOs have showed us a map of all their Gen AI projects, and Axion's the only one in the production column. And part of that is that I think that, there's a lot of people who are making a lot of noise about AI, but by being focused, you can then close the last mile to actually ensure that the organization gets ROI by being focused, by being experts, by helping with change management, and by having all the features that the users need in order to adopt this in their workflow, rather than this being something that people are using in some sort of sandbox that never gets adopted. We'll go to another question in the Q&A. How do you think about the relationship between Axion and Six Sigma projects?
Oh, that's actually I tried to get on that earlier. When we talk Six Sigma, you have two types, right? You got DFSS, you have DMAIC. We use both at Schneider. It's actually complements, right? If you look at a source of our project hopper, where we call the power of and quality and delivery and cost while keeping people and sustainability in the front. Axion is becoming really the platform to give us what are the problems we want to solve, while also once the problem is solved, I mean, you're programming in the tool to have it continuously monitored to make sure the problem doesn't come back. So
Great.
they go hand in hand, actually. Can I say one more thing? Some of the cool stuff is many of us, I don't know if we can get some likes, but I'm also a Minitab ninja. I was trained in Minitab. I grew up in Minitab. One of my degrees is from Penn State, where Minitab came from. The cool thing about the software, the platform, is you can actually ask some crazy questions. Can it do the DOE screening for us? Can you help us to build a Python code that then we can run to do the DOE? So it's how do you do Six Sigma projects faster to get the benefit sooner while always keeping the heart of Six Sigma, which is customer focus, right? The heart of Six Sigma is this total customer satisfaction approach.
Perfect. Another question that's being asked is around what becomes the role of the human. And one of the things that that was really interesting. I had a conversation recently with a quality leader who said that because of Axion, he's actually hiring more people, because it used to be that humans were solving problems and they could only solve the most important issues slowly. But then it didn't make sense to hire any more humans because the ROI became not that great. But if you think about a world in which quality teams are actually able to solve many more problems, there's a lot of problems. In a world where humans can solve 3 times as many or 5 times as many problems, the ROI of having humans is actually much, much higher. And I think that one of the really interesting things about the space of quality is that I don't think that AI ever is going to solve 100% of the issues autonomously. I think that AI might help accelerate parts of the problem solving cycle. It might automate the most boring parts, and it might help people learn the earliest warning signals of issues. But I think there's going to be a big role for humans. So, James, maybe you want to speak about how you view the role that humans will play, both on quality teams. What role will humans play, as they lead hybrid organizations? What are some of the problems that a quality leader overseeing a team of AI agents is going to have to think about? Maybe you want to speak to some of that.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I'm transitioning from a role, right? From being the head of quality into being the head of supply chain. And one of the things you're helping me do is the Dr. J AI bot. So we're developing a GPT of Dr. J. And it's so cool. I mean, they've uploaded my book, white papers. I wrote a chapter in a reliability textbook, my emails. so that you can ask the bot a question and it answers like I would. And it's actually, I thank you guys. I think that's a gift to my quality team as I go to my new role. You know, we earlier, one of the questions you got was about Ishikawa diagrams, right? Or fishbone diagrams. A quote from Ishikawa is that no problem is a problem. No problem is a problem. If your organization, if you look at a KPI chart and it's a watermelon, that means it's green on the outside but red in the inside. That you don't have a culture where people can talk openly about problems, either through psychological safety or intellectual honesty. When you have the power of and, when you're collecting all this diverse data, you know, the data that we're using from service, this isn't a quality database. This is the service database that we're using in a quality application. I hope the team's really getting that. You're using data sources that aren't necessarily quality data sources, but we're using it for a quality purpose to drive continuous improvement and continuous learning. So then you need the professionals that, as you're visualizing the iceberg, different levels of the iceberg versus just the cost, that's the impetus to show how quality is a business enabler. We're adding value for the customer and to the business. I really hope I'm getting that point across. You're not just taking quality data sets. You're not just looking at non-conformance reports. You're looking at all the different sources of data in your company from a quality lens to drive continuous improvement and continuous learning.
One of the things, James, from our conversations that I've really enjoyed is that, I think we've talked a lot about how historically quality leaders have often, had to go and stare at the warranty data or kind of play a local role. And one of the really interesting things is this elevated role that they now have in the organization, where quality becomes the voice of the customer. Quality is the customer, as you always say to me, and how what we see is that quality leaders now need to think about end-to-end problem solving. How do they feed the right data back to engineering and supply chain? How do they even keep the marketing team informed when there's an emerging issue? And so maybe you want to, speak about, how you see quality leadership changing in a world where AI means that quality owns the customer insights about product issues and how to flow those across the organization.
Yeah, I mean, this is where quality becomes the total quality organization, right? I don't want to say total quality. I want to say really, it becomes about total customer satisfaction, right? Not just quality, not just looking at defects or warranty or ISO. ISO, we got to do an internal audit. Let's do an ISO internal audit. That by learning to see and using the data to visualize these severity 1, severity 2, severity 3 that are hassles for the customer, by visualizing these hassles and how quality is enabling the business to bring us closer to the customer, that's the true power of our function. So as quality leaders, it's coming, right? I mean, it is coming. So now's your time. You're part of the Gen T.
Great. And James, one of the other things I've observed at Schneider is how quality has become really a board level priority. How do you see what advice would you have to other quality leaders about how they can explain to the board the importance of being proactive with AI and quality?
For me, just really start with a pilot. Start with something small. I can say the tools are so easy to use. Imagine the Gen AI, the ChatGPT or Gemini that you're using, how it's like magic, right? The first time you use ChatGPT, it becomes like magic. Wow. And then you stop doing Google searches, you immediately go and start using the tool. I mean, for those of us that, I pay for pro service in ChatGPT, with Grok, with Gemini, because each tool does something. You should see the fun videos I send my team. I can be rapping, I can be riding a horse to the Eiffel Tower, while singing in French. Okay, that's fun privately. But by having a tool dedicated directly to quality, as you start seeing the insights that you can't imagine, and you're showing your board, like, wow, this is impacting a customer, and look how quickly we were able to accelerate and transform. And actually, top management starts pulling. You're not pushing that, you need to give me a seat at the table. They're dragging you in because they see that you're as quality professionals, you're becoming bilingual. You're not just speaking the language of the parts anymore. You're becoming bilingual in that you're speaking in dollars and cents, and you're able to translate both. I see already, man, I got like 100 new LinkedIn invites. So I hope the conversation doesn't end here. Please click like and subscribe. And I'm happy, to work, is how they say it, right? On the YouTube, click like and subscribe. I'm so happy to continue this, this conversation going forward. I
Great.
hope it was useful, by the way. I really hope this was useful. I'm trying to speak openly off the cuff.
Great. James, this was so insightful. Thank you so much. In a world where there's so much AI noise, you're a voice of real clarity. And, if anybody wants, obviously, you can reach out to James on LinkedIn. If you want to reach out to us, you can email me, daniel@axion.com. But, thank you so much, James, for the time today. Looking forward to continued partnership and looking forward to continuing the conversation with you all who are here. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Keep going.